What's up, guys, and welcome to the very first episode of I Went to Fashion School podcast with me, Renata Hogan. So my first guest is lingerie and jewellery designer Roshni Desai. We met at college whilst we were both studying fashion and textiles. And since then, she has launched her very own online jewellery business, graduated with a BA in contour fashion, showcased at Graduate Fashion Week, worked as a freelancer, and is now working on launching her very own lingerie collection, making her a founder of not one, but two businesses. When I think of the words go-getter, I definitely think of her. In this episode, we will talk about how through the ups and downs of life, she found and continues to find comfort in her craft. And we go through the process of how she became a thriving designer and entrepreneur. Just a heads up, guys, this conversation was recorded remotely from two separate locations, so there are a few minor technical issues, delayed responses and overlap. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and like your background.
Yeah, so my name's Roshni and I'm a lingerie design student and I studied at De Montfort University, and I'm also a jewellery maker and I do that part-time.
Nice. I think we'll start a little bit with your jewellery line and your business. So what inspired you to kind of start your business and kind of use your craft to generate money, I guess? So what inspired you to start that?
So when I was younger, I used to copy everything my mum did. Every single thing, every new hobby she would start, I would want to join her and copy her and buy all the bits. So when I was about 9 years old, she bought me my first pair of pliers and a beading kit.
Nice.
And I just started making loads of jewellery, and after a couple of years I realised that I was getting quite good at it and I was able to sell things.
Nice.
So my auntie would take it to her workplace and, I'd come back with like £100 every Christmas, and I just thought, wow, this is great, I can make loads on this. So it started off as it definitely just started off as something that I really enjoyed doing, something that I wanted to copy my mum with, just because I didn't know what to do with myself at that point. And then it became something that I developed on my own over the years.
Nice. And like my understanding of it, because we met at college, you started the business during college, or did it start prior?
Yeah. No, it started properly started during college. So in my second year, I had to take quite a few months off sick, and I was just going crazy at home. I couldn't really leave. I had back and forth doctor appointments, and I thought there was no way I could concentrate on my college work. I wasn't really doing anything because I didn't understand what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to open an Etsy shop for quite a while, but I just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there all day, and I thought, might as well just set it up now. I've got nothing else to do. I've got nothing to lose than doing that. I've just got time on my hands. So I set it up during that time, and I started adding loads of different items to my Etsy shop, getting my business cards made, getting my packaging sorted, getting loads and loads of stock made, because I've started around the time of March, April, which was it's usually the quieter months in terms of selling, because there's not that many celebrations or things that go on during that time. So it gave me a lot of time to take time, make things properly, and have an actual look into what kind of items I want to be selling and want to be making. So it did start around college time, and it was just something that ended up progressing into what it is now. I didn't really stop doing that. I just kept working and working at it, but that initial phase was me just taking a week or so out from trying to get work done, because I wasn't going anywhere with it, and just focusing it on something different for a change.
Yeah, and that's so like inspiring to hear, because obviously like when we were at college, we did notice that you weren't coming in anymore, and you know, having to deal with the health issues, and you kind of like turning something that was quite difficult for yourself into a positive by generating a business, but also keeping yourself kind of busy with your hands. Is quite inspiring, but also like exciting, because life gave you lemons almost, and you kind of made lemonade from it. And within that situation, I know it sounds so cliche, doesn't it? But it was like it's just amazing. And I think I can remember at the time being like, okay, wow, like this is difficult, because we were all kind of like struggling with the coursework and the course in itself, but
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
knowing that you did that, like, it's incredible. It's really admirable. And
I think also with creative work, you just get mind blocks. You do need something different to take your mind off it, to just get your inspiration flowing again. It's so difficult to constantly have creative ideas coming through all the time. So this was a nice way of stepping back from it, taking a break, and just giving my eyes something new to look at for a while, and then going back into my college work, which I think a lot of people don't really do. I think that people just continuously carry on working, and end up struggling because they've exhausted themselves.
But it's all about kind of like finding a different outlet to kind of still be creative in, but without the pressure of like the grade or
exactly,
work atmosphere. And staying kind of around the idea of like the struggles and stuff. With starting that business, did you face any difficulties in kind of generating sales? Because obviously, you mentioned that you put it on Etsy, which is like a big platform where kind of handmade craftsmen kind of sell their products. How did you kind of face the difficulties in generating sales for your jewelry?
So Etsy recommends to have at least 100 items on your shop before you start getting noticed, before you start getting regular sales and income coming in. When you're starting off, it's really difficult to actually have 100 items. And I think, when you're at that college age as well, you don't have any money, you don't have a job, you don't have a regular income to keep funding all these things. So I was relying on other things such as birthday money and Christmas money and stuff like that to save up and then use. So my sales were staggered in the sense that I couldn't afford to buy everything in one go and get everything up there in one go. And it's also quite difficult because you're competing with so many other people who might be creating the exact same thing as you. You're a new shop, you haven't got any reviews, you haven't got any sales. It just takes that first person to trust you and trust your business with that initial sale. But sale wise, I think you have to remember that it's not going to come in one massive flood. I think a lot of people think that once you open a business, you're just going to have constant sales all the time, and that is not the case at all.
No.
In my first year, I had 40 sales.
Wow.
And it is a lot for my first year, considering when I started, and I didn't have any help with it because nobody really knew of Etsy back then. It wasn't as big of a platform as it is now. So people didn't really know to use that website to search for handmade things or to search for things made by people individually. So it was difficult in that sense as well, because you try and tell people you're on this website and they don't even know what the website is. So trying to get that out there too. And I think the more Etsy grew, the more my shop grew as well, because I was getting more clicks into my shop, which boost up my products on the page. So the more clicks this one item has, the higher up the rank it goes.
Oh, okay. And
so I actually went.
Sorry.
So I actually went from 40 sales in my first year to over 2,000 in this year.
Wow.
Just these past 6 months because of the whole situation as well, but with COVID. But yeah.
Wow, that's
massive difference.
That's a huge difference, and like congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And I think that's just like, you are definitely like a go-getter. Like, you just persevered. Like, that's, I mean, I feel like for myself after like 40, I'd been like, okay, cool. maybe I'm like, okay, maybe I should do another thing. But like, so how long has the business been running?
So I started my Etsy shop just after I turned 18. I'm 22 now, so it's been going for about 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
It's definitely been an improvement year on year on year, just because I've been learning from my mistakes. There's a lot of things that people don't tell you when it comes to running your own business, and I think customer service is a massive key within it. Because when you run the business by yourself, you are customer service, you are the maker, the distributor, the packaging, posting, the selling, the communicating, every single aspect that you think other people will do, that's up to one person to communicate with.
That's a lot of pressure, but like,
it is, yeah.
It's I think it's well worth it, because I mean, look at the sales that you're generating now. It's amazing. And let's talk a little bit about like the manufacturing process. So you said that you had to produce 100 products to then put it on Etsy. So did you have to kind of like outsource like the different elements of the jewelry, so like the backing or like the pendants, the neck chains, and things like that?
Yeah, so I have a couple of wholesalers that I use and I rely on. I like using smaller businesses too, local ones. So I'll use whoever where I can. Mostly it's cost effective, what's going to work best for me cost wise. And I think now because I'm selling them a lot more, I have to order a lot more of that item in for the cost to be worth it for me.
Yeah.
So sourcing and getting all these products and stuff in, I would compare all the different prices to see, you know, does it work better getting it from abroad or from here? If I wait till this date, then I can get this much off it. A lot of these things you have to take into consideration, just because at the end of the day, it's your money you're pumping into this business.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you get it back at some point eventually.
Yeah.
Whether it's that year or the following year. So I've just got to make sure that the cost is viable for me. But sourcing wise, it's not too difficult because there's so many factories and platforms that are able to cater to what you want.
Yeah.
And because I order in bigger bulks now, they're able to do custom designs for me because I meet that quantity criteria.
So that designs in terms of like the pendants and the like slogans that you have on keychains and things. So is that?
Yeah. So the slogans that I have on keychains, a lot of them are already pre-done, things that I can just order in, and then I make the key rings up at home. There's some of my best sellers, which I sell so many of, that I have to then get made in bulk myself. So I do the design myself.
Nice.
And I get a wholesale bulk made because it just works out so much cheaper for me.
Okay.
So it's a variation of what I order and how I order them.
Oh, okay. And that's to do with like the expenses wise. But in terms of like the design, you kind of like start off with the concept that, okay, this time we're going to do a few keychains with a few necklaces, and then you would outsource like the length of the necklaces with the pendants and things, or how does that kind of work, the design process wise?
Yes. So with the charms, a lot of the charms I use, the bestseller ones I have at the moment are the evil eye charms, the Turkish eye.
Yeah.
And a lot of people buy them. You know, I sell quite a few of them every week. So I try and look at variations of those designs because I know that this is something that isn't going to go out of trend. It's something that people believe in.
Yeah.
Sort of like the zodiac signs. It's not something that's ever going to go out of trend because it's a constant thing year on year on year. So I would source the charms first, and I'd wait for the charms to arrive to see what kind of color they are, the quality. I'd order it in smaller bulk first if it's my first time purchase. See what the quality is like, see if I like the color, the style. If I'm not happy with it, I'll source someone else. If I am happy with it, then I proceed to put a bigger order through. And once I do that, I know how many chains I need to purchase. I know how many bags I'll need to keep aside for that. That sort of thing. So it comes with looking at the smaller bit first, because chains are really easy to source. That makes no difference. But it's the pendant, the quality of the pendant that I look at, and seeing that, you know, this factory can make it for me for this price. The quality is really good, so I'm happy to go forward with that.
And then you kind of like then assemble the jewelry by yourself, and then
yeah, my bedroom is absolutely covered in stuff. I'm taking over every part of the room. My mum's going a bit mental because there's jewelry bits downstairs, there's sewing bits around the back. My desk is covered in keychains and earrings and necklaces, and
wow,
I haven't got enough space to make, but I've just got to keep making when I can, where I can. There were even cases where on my way to uni, I'd be in the car sitting at the back, and I'd have my keyrings there, just making them on the car journey there.
Wow, you're like
I did not have time to just sit there when I got home and make some keyrings up, so I'd fit it in wherever I could.
Yeah,
including the car journeys there and back, just getting things done because I wouldn't be doing anything else.
That's just the creative person. It's just consuming wherever and whenever. You're just drawing, making, like there's no limits as to where.
No, you do. Desperate times call for desperate measures with it. You do end up doing things like that, just because you're so short on time.
Yeah,
it really does escape you, especially when you're studying.
Yeah,
because obviously that's your priority. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
so trying to fit all of this stuff in alongside it as well. I'd be making things in the car when I was getting my hair cut.
wherever.
Wherever I could get it done, really, just save me time.
You are definitely like a go-getter, like hands down. You are a go-getter. Wherever, whenever you're like doing what you need to do to get the thing done. I love it. And in terms of, obviously, like you just said, like your jewelry business was a bit of a side hustle, but your main focus was design. It was fashion design, but in particular contour design and lingerie design. And I guess we met at college, like I've said, on the fashion and textiles course. And I guess that course was kind of like a bit of everything, a bit of fashion, a little bit, I think way more textiles than fashion. But from there, how did you kind of like map yourself and prepare yourself to where you wanted to be?
So at that point, at the point of first year of college, I'd already done some work experience at De Montfort University, and I went into loads of different departments, and I just did a couple of days with each department. And the first department I did it with was contour. And I learned how to make all these really different things. I made a bustier, a pair of knickers, a pajama set, and because I'd had those patterns from that, I knew how to make those things. When it came to college and me wanting to explore it a bit further, the patterns and the method of make was already there. And it, like you said, it was more textiles based. We didn't really learn a lot about fashion and construction of garments. I think a lot of that was down to ourselves and how much we experimented with that. But I would say that even though it was textiles based, the work we did in our sketchbooks really helped with my portfolios and the way my sketchbooks turned out over the years. Because a lot of people would really focus on looking at fashion trends and looking at clothing and colour, and that's fine. But we were taught to experiment more with samples and create different textures and look at different medias, which a lot of universities actually look for when you're showing them your sketchbooks at interviews. They look to see whether you can work with different types of medias, whether you can work with different fabrics, and how experimental you can actually be with what you're given.
I think
so it wasn't a massive help in terms of construction and making fashion garments, but sketchbook wise, I would say definitely benefited me through my interview process and through those 3 years whilst I was there.
Because I think we did get encouraged to kind of like push our the different medias that we used in sampling and creating different kind of ideas, which I guess then we could project onto the body. But I'm glad that you said that as well, because when I look back at that, like studying fashion and textiles, I did think actually we didn't do that much fashion constructions like you said, but actually it did put us in an environment where we focused on being experimental and actually pushing our ideas and not necessarily sticking to the status quo of what it came to what garment could look like and what they could be like. And so from there you went straight to uni. You didn't do a foundation, right? Which is something that we get encouraged to do because it just kind of helps. I did foundation and I feel like I really needed it because I struggled a lot at college with like my confidence and just what I really wanted to do in fashion design. Like I knew I wanted to do fashion design, but I didn't know, all these other kind of subjects.
Yeah, there's a lot of subcategories with it.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna do a foundation and figure out where I want to go and how where I want to position myself as a designer. But for you, talk us a little bit about how you kind of made your decision after college.
So I think definitely having that work experience really helped me because I was already exposed to it in some sense, even though it was for a couple of days. I clicked with it immediately that this is something I want to be doing as a career. Even at the age of 14, 15.
And this is at DMU, wasn't it? At De Montfort University, Leicester.
Yes. And so when it came to college and when it came to me wanting to do a course and stay towards that course, I would alter or accommodate my projects towards that area. So in my second year final project, I created corsets and I did bralettes to sort of incorporate those skills ready to take with me to my interviews for contour fashion. And I didn't think at that point I needed to do a foundation. Is like you said, we were encouraged to do one. But I think if you know what you want to do, you know where your interest is, then go straight towards your degree.
100%.
I think it's really that foundation is probably, you know, just time for experimenting and just to hone in more on what you think you might be interested in or what you actually want to do. And it might actually discourage you from thinking, this isn't the area I want to go into. I like this one
100%.
better.
And I think I want to also highlight that you were intentional with all the projects that we did at college. You kind of thought, okay, I'm here at college, but I actually want to do contour. And instead of just being like, oh, okay, let me just choose whatever to make for this project for unit 1, unit 3, whatever, you were kind of specific in saying, actually, because I want to do contour, let me tailor this project on, you know, practicing skills that I will need for when I go to the degree. Which is, I think I would definitely encourage for like people listening and people thinking about what they're wanting to do is, if you don't know what you want to do and you're not sure, you know, definitely go for a foundation like I did. But at the same time, absolutely, use those opportunities where you are doing projects at college, at school or wherever, to kind of tailor it to where you want to go, really. So just like you, if you want to do contour, like tailor your project to that area. And I think it's you know, you used your time really well and it kind of paid off.
I hope so. I hope I did. It was difficult learning how to make corsets and how to make bralettes, but I think because I really wanted to get onto that course, I pushed myself in, and I found an ex-lecturer who helped me to create a corset and showed me how to actually construct it together, things like that. And then just incorporating my own style into it, because in my corset each panel had a different texture and a different feel to it, which was part of the charm of taking bits out of my sketchbook and then putting it into my garments. So there was a lot of crossover work that was happening with that as well. But yeah, definitely, I would say alter your project brief where you can to suit the course you want to do. It really does help. It shows when you go to these interviews that you're already thinking about the kind of things you would be making, about construction, about the fit, about the look, about how you'd make it and why you're doing it the way you're doing it. They ask you all these things, and because you're subconsciously doing it anyway, you have the answers for that.
That's it's a great tip. And I think it's amazing that you also was able to like land a position on the course that you wanted to, without having to go for a foundation, and just showing that you had the skills to kind of put yourself in that position and take on that course. So from there, from college and having your jewelry business as a side hustle, you then went straight into I want to say fashion contour. Is that what the course is called, or contour fashion?
Contour fashion. Yeah, contour fashion.
And then so talk to me a little bit about that. And was it like do you think that you managed to instill the skills that you needed for when you were at for when you got to university from college, or was it like a completely different ball game, or was it quite similar to what you anticipated it to be?
So once I got to university, they do say to you, you know, you don't have to have sewing skills, you don't have to know every single thing about this to be able to be on the course. They teach you all these things. So within the first week, we taught all these skills. So we would go to the machine room and we'd go on every single machine that they had there, and we'd see what each machine did to create what effect. And even so in first year and second year, it's all about learning all these skills and then applying it to a project at the end. But a lot of it is learning based. So you would have a couple of weeks where you would get patterns given to you. You would alter the patterns to make sure they fit, and then you'd actually make the garment up itself. So all these sewing skills would come in. So you'd have your tutors and your technicians show you every single step of the way.
And I guess that kind of also clears up that misconception that people might have, that okay, to go to fashion school and to go and study fashion, I have to know everything that there is to know. But there is more or less
No, that's not the case at all. I think they rather you don't try and squash everything in, because you're a bit more open-minded to
and
things
I think
that
it's
way.
more about like being open to creating new ideas and being a creative thinker rather than actually being able to perfectly create a garment.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's the same for me when I like having studied fashion design for women's wear. It was more, okay, how can you think outside the box, or what kind of ideas do you have, or how can you build on concepts based on the projects that we give you, more so than actually I can sew perfectly in a straight line and and all of that. So
yeah, I think a lot of people feel really intimidated because they think that, you know, I have to know all these things, otherwise I'm going to fail the course, and it's not the case at all. There was a lot of, I mean, I'd say a good 80% of things I did at university I had no clue how to do. And it's the process of learning. You learn every single thing as you go on. Even, you know, in your final year, when you're doing your final project, you learn a new way how to make something, and your mind is constantly trying to work out new ways how to construct something and what the best way of going about these things are. I mean, I used to have dreams about how I'd make my outfits up. It got to that stage where I'd be dreaming about my project.
Yes,
I'd fix a
I know
dilemma in
that.
my dream. And it's just you just, you know, you're doing it without knowing you're doing it, but you wake up the next day and you think, oh, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle this. And you know, you're constantly learning. You could be stuck on something for weeks and then it will just click one day with you.
Definitely. I think it is 100% about a process more than actually being able to complete the final product. And definitely trying to go to sleep and a picture of a seam just comes in your head and then you're just like, really?
I
just want to sleep. Yeah, I know those visions of like eureka moments in the middle of the night.
Final year problems. Yeah, that was
oh yeah, fun times. Yeah, so from there you kind of spent these, it was a 3-year or was it a 4-year course?
It was a 3-year course. It could have been a 4-year course with placement year, but for me, I decided to just carry on the course.
So you did 1 to 2 years of just like learning different skills, learning the basics about like pattern cutting, blocks, and the different types of lingeries and fabrics, and experimenting and kind of just like obviously meeting project briefs and doing projects within all of that, but also learning all these new skills. And then finally you came to 3rd year where you're doing your kind of final major project. And so from there, what was your project about?
So we had 2 projects in final year. The first project was from when we started up until Christmas, which is an external client project. Usually they give you 1 client to design for. This year they actually gave us an option of 2. So they gave us, we had Gymshark and we had Coco de Mer. And, you know, obviously Gymshark was a whole sportswear brand and Coco de Mer is very provocative lingerie. So the people who are more focused on lingerie obviously picked the Coco de Mer project, and the ones who wanted to do sportswear, outerwear, picked the Gymshark project. So I ended up doing the Coco de Mer one. And it's quite difficult, actually, because you're trying to cater your creative ideas to another company and what their company is all about. And it's really hard for your own passion and your own style not to completely take over what this project's supposed to be about.
To kind of like filter.
It's so easy to do that because you just think, oh, I like this, I'm going to carry on making it this way. But you've got to think that it's for a client, you're designing for somebody else, you're designing to a brief that they've given you. You must stick to these criteria because that's what it would be like if you were at a big company when you finish university. So I definitely found that project a lot harder, and I think time frame as well. It was really, really quick. Really quick. We had no idea what was coming towards us. We just spent endless nights doing work, constantly sewing. There was a lot of hand sewing involved, but it was a good project because I think it forced you to work under a really short deadline. I think a lot of people think they have all the time in the world to create something, and it really forces you to work well with your time
and make
management
quick
skills.
decisions.
yes, it's so easy to drift off from something, and you know, a week later you think, oh my God, I've only got this much time left to get this project done. And a lot of what they did with our final year was they set these projects in the summer, so you're able to do some background reading and research on it. You're able to start trend prediction and doing your sketchbook designs, because that's what takes ages.
And especially when it wasn't a big favorite of mine where they set the brief for us to continue throughout the summer, because then it's constantly on your mind. You can't really have a summer because you're thinking, oh, that can inspire that. Oh, can I be reading? Or, why am I lying here doing that thing? And and I think it encourages again for us to continually keep our creative side of our brain ticking.
Yeah, it does, definitely. It's always like you said, it's always on your mind. You're not really ever free from it. You could just be scrolling through Instagram and seeing something. You think, oh, that'd be quite nice to include as market research, or but I think in some ways it's good because it keeps your mind fresh over summer. You know, when you're at uni, you have a good 2 months off from when you've finished, and it's a big time gap to not be doing anything at all, and then to just jump back into final year, and then have your tutor say, okay, you've got a whole project to do in less than 2 months, go. So even though it's in the back of your mind over summer, at least you're still thinking about it. You're not having to do that initial thinking process.
Exactly, and you kind of still keeping in practice.
What you're doing.
And then so after that, the first term, you then did the 2 last terms of your final year, working on your final project.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was about that's based on what we want to do, completely our own project. And I decided to look into my culture and how it crosses over
and your
lingerie.
culture, just so the viewers, the listeners know.
So I'm Gujarati, so I'm a Hindu, and we celebrate festivals like Diwali and Navratri and a lot of big colourful festivals, and I wanted to do a cross between the two cultures, because I've been brought up here, but I've always celebrated these festivals that my grandparents have been brought up with. So I wanted to do a crossover between the two, because there's a lot of stereotypes of what people wear and what you are allowed to wear and what you aren't allowed to wear. And I really wanted to break the barrier between that, to say that, you know, it is acceptable to wear something like this. You can wear this. There's nothing wrong with it. And I wanted to look up further into it. So I did a cross between Indian culture and lingerie. So I created lingerie sets that had sort of built-in sari features into it, really big skirts, big shawls that had embroidery all over it, things that would flow, just to try and bring that culture back into it.
And it was kind of like a fusion of 2 different cultures, like this whole, do you say then there's not a big kind of like market of lingerie within your culture or within your community?
No, there is it's really considered a subject that you don't talk about. So you know, I wanted to show that you can talk about these things. There's
and
nothing
they can
wrong with
kind
it.
of cross.
They can cross. I think it's just it's a generation thing that, you know, it's been brought down generation by generation to say, you know, this is bad, you can't talk about it, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't wear this. And I wanted to show that you can still have that element of culture in there, and you can still look good and feel good without it being offensive.
And I think that's another thing about like fashion that really excites me, is that it plays in all parts of life. It's not just about this luxury kind of platform that exists for one type of people, but actually it can also relate within culture. Obviously you can wear it out, or you can also still wear it covered, but at the same time, like the significance of that design and the message of the design was about your culture and about kind of bringing 2 different cultures or different ways, different lifestyles, I want to say, together, which is, you know, it's always exciting. And I think if somebody that is from your culture kind of looks at that and can actually relate to that, they might just be more encouraged to think, actually, no, I could try those pair of knickers, or I could try that bra on, you know, because there is that connection to say, actually, the colors that remind me of a sari, or the colors that we use within different celebrations.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my colors that I ended up choosing had a massive impact on the overall look that I was going for, because Bollywood culture is, you know, it's bright, it's in your face, it's constantly getting your attention. So I used yellow, orange, fuchsia pink and purple as my color theme, and it very bright, very in your face, very bold colors. I wanted to, that again, part of that culture, bring that bit into the crossover. The color was definitely my main aspect of my collection. It was something that got people's attentions, and it was actually one of the brightest collections in my year group that anybody created. And I think, you know, people go with color trends. A lot of people went with really dark, muted colors, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think we're just so used to picking those colors, especially as you get a bit older, because it matches with everything, and, you know, it looks nice when it's all one color that you're comfortable with. Whereas now, since I've done that collection, I've actually started experimenting with brighter colors like that myself, even wearing brighter colors like that. It's had a massive impact on the clothing that I end up buying, the colors of clothing that I buy,
and I guess would you say that, and that's you kind of still getting in touch more with your culture and expressing that in different forms of garment types?
Yes, yeah, I do. I've been designing knickers and stuff at the moment, and underwear sets that I've got a crossover of those colors in that I used last year with my final project, just to bring it. It just reminds me of that. It reminds me of like really happy Bollywood dancing atmosphere. So I've been using a lot of the colors that I've been using at the moment actually include all four of those. So it's it's had a massive impact on what I'm designing now, something that I did over a year and a half ago, which is, it's great. It's nice to see
and it's nice to see that actually, in a way, the project is evolving and still growing and still having an impact on who you are as a designer and your aesthetic. That's so cool. Definitely. And saying that, so you obviously got a chance to showcase your collection at Graduate Fashion Week. How was that? Did you guys have to go to London to showcase, or like was it like a lot of pressure and a lot of kind of, because obviously you're still wanting to, was it after your deadline or within your deadline as well? No, okay, so you had finished everything that you needed to do for your degree, and then it was just prep for the fashion week.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's one of these things that you build yourself towards. It's one of the highlights at the end of your degree, that you go to London and you have this massive catwalk dedicated to your course. And because our course is so niche, we have our own separate catwalk. So it's not done within the whole Graduate Fashion Week platform. It's actually a separate catwalk itself, because it's a whole different industry. So it was done in Covent Garden, and we all went down to London, those who were able to help. It was a massive room at the back that we, were getting our models dressed in. We had running orders, dress rehearsals, see who it would fit. So our collections were consisted of 4 outfits. So we had our 4 models going down the catwalk one by one, and then standing together as a group. But it really does, because when you're making these things, you see it bit by bit and in dribs and drabs, until you put it all together and you see 4 people wearing it collectively as an actual collection. It doesn't really hit to see what impact you've actually made. But the catwalk is definitely one of the main highlights of the entire degree. Really, really good opportunity. And it exposes you to all these people in industry as well, because industry gets invited to this show. So we have one show that's for friends and family, and then you have another show that's specifically for industry. And a lot of people actually end up getting headhunted at this point, because they see your final collection, they see everything that you've worked towards in these few months, what your potential is. And it's a great opportunity because it exposes you to so many different other companies, and you have a chance to chat with them at the end of the catwalk.
You also got some exposure from that, didn't you, by getting a photographer's attention to kind of like, so how was that?
Yes, yeah. So this photographer works with DMU students, and he's been working with them for about over 10 years now. And at the end of the catwalk, he selects a few students that he really likes the collections of, and does photo shoots with them and with their collections. So I had one that was based in Leicester, and then I had one that was based in Rio. Which, yes, it was definitely a massive shock, because I didn't actually know that was happening. Which is, I just looked on my Instagram one day to see I was tagged in all these videos that said, you know, your collection's in Rio, and it was amazing. It was really, really amazing opportunity to see, because you think, you know, it's fitting into so many different backgrounds and scenarios that he was able to get.
So obviously, when you went to Graduate Fashion Week, you took down your garments to London and dressed the models and everything. So when the photographer did he take your designs to Rio?
Yes, yeah. So he took my outfits with him to Rio, and I had a whole photo shoot.
Did you go with him, or he just took them?
Oh no, I wish. No, he just took the outfits. So I handed my outfits to him, dropped him off at his studio in Leicester, and he did the photo shoot here in Leicester, and then ended up taking them because he had a location that he really thought it would work well with.
Wow. And you trusted him?
Yeah, it is a bit scary handing off your work like that to someone, because obviously you put it away carefully the way you know it needs to go. But afterwards it was fine, because I thought, you know what, I've been graded on this now. I'm happy with it. I don't really care what state it comes back in.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And then now you've also got like different kind of shots of your work to put in your portfolio and to kind of like continue building from. And did you get like a lot of exposure in terms of like on your social media? Did people start like following you and kind of like seeing the things that you do, and start inquiring for your designs and things?
Yeah, I mean, it did come a bit after. It didn't come immediately, because, you know, people are always going through design account profiles, and the photographer would upload pictures every so often, so there's always re-exposure again of these outfits and the shoot. But even when somebody else reposts it on their social media, it's exposing it to all of their followers and all the people that take an interest in these things. Design opportunities, it definitely helped, because I had really nice pictures to show, to say that, you know, this is my final collection outfit. This was an opportunity that then came from that, and this is an opportunity I'm now looking for when it comes to me applying for a job. So it helped in a sense of me promoting myself, whether it was for a bigger company or a smaller company. It was something that they were interested in regardless. And it also brought exposure, because when you go to these interviews and you give your social media platforms, they look through all these things, and it's pictures like that catches their attention.
But also shows that you have you can collaborate and you work well with people, because obviously now you've got this good relationship with the photographer, and you know, you never know what kind of that connection with him is going to bring as well. So it's exciting. So you've graduated now, you've done Graduate Fashion Week, you've done the photo shoot, and now you've started like a lingerie business, haven't you? And what inspired you, or kind of gave you the confidence to say, you know what, I've graduated, you know, you've just finished this big 3-year commitment to studying and working and doing your side hustle, and you're still wanting to kind of like start your own business, just finishing off being a student, so you've not like got this big income, unless you do, but you know, what gave you the confidence to say, I've just graduated, I'm going to start my own lingerie business as well?
So it was so after I graduated, I took a couple of months out for myself, just to give myself a break. I then started applying for loads of different jobs. I must have applied for at least over 100 jobs, and a lot of them require 2 to 3 years experience, and you're looking at it thinking, I don't have that, I've just come out of university. You're looking for a junior level entry, and you're looking for people with this experience. It doesn't make sense. So I started looking at smaller companies, individual brands, think that ones work with, whether it was freelance, whether it was full-time, part-time, whatever sort of exposure I could get with them. And I ended up getting a couple of opportunities from independent brands that were looking to start up or who had just started up, and I started working with them.
Oh, okay.
And because I worked within a smaller brand, I was able to see how they managed their business as a small independent company.
Okay.
And I worked really closely with them in terms of how they got their design sorted, how they contacted a factory, how they communicated with them. And after my contract ended with this company, I was still struggling for work. You know, it was Brexit had just happened, and it was right at the start of coronavirus, so nobody had any jobs out there. Everybody was redacting all their job offers. So I started looking, thinking, do you know what, I could start it by myself. I know what to do.
Wow.
It was definitely something I thought I would do in a few years' time or in the future. I did not think I would be doing it within a year of graduating from university. It is costly. It is a massively costly thing to do, but I think you have to put these risks in when it comes to business. You definitely have to think, okay, I know I'm putting all of this money in, but you have to believe you're going to make all of that money back and more. You can't have a negative attitude towards it, because then you're just going to go in half-assed with wanting to sell things and thinking you're going to make it all back within one go. And it's not. It's a process, and it will take time. You have to do things slowly. So it's taken me since April to get to where I am now, to be able to launch next month with my designs. And it will be 3 outfits that I'll be doing. So I've got a photo shoot set up in a couple of weeks. I've got my model sorted, a photographer sorted. But getting to that stage, you have to have belief the whole way through. It's the initial process that's long, because you're just starting up, you're getting things going and ready to get in the motion. But I think once it's done and you've figured out a routine and a pattern, it becomes so much easier.
And I must say it again, you are definitely like a go-getter, and you just look for opportunities and you're just like on it. And I really admire your belief in yourself, because obviously,
thank you.
You're welcome. And because obviously you are saying that, you know, there are things that you're worried about, and there are concerns that you have, that you just graduated a year ago. You have to kind of like pump in a lot of your own money in. There's no guarantee it's going to work, but you're still out here like, you know what, let's keep going. Let's go look for this photographer. Let's, you know, design 3 or 4 looks and find a model and set up a shoot and all these things. Like, mate, well done. Like, well done. And I wish you all the best, because it's so exciting what you're doing. And oh my goodness. But alongside, you're going to be doing this alongside the jewelry as well, or are you thinking of them merging together?
Alongside my jewelry, the jewelry stuff has definitely picked up so much. I think my sales have tripled since COVID has started, because people are just shopping and buying things. So, you know, trying to keep up with the demand of that as well, it's become quite difficult time management wise, because I always feel like I'm constantly doing something, you know. Even downstairs, when I'm downstairs in the evening watching TV, I'm still making things up because I don't have enough hours in the day to get all of that sorted. But I'm hoping to scale the jewelry down as the lingerie goes up.
Okay.
Just to give myself a bit of a break. Otherwise, I find that I spend every single day doing something for the business, and I don't really take any time out for myself.
Need that work-life balance.
So I got a bit strict on myself, and I said, and I did this when I was at university as well. I decided that I have certain days where I will post my orders and I'll go to the post office. It takes a lot of time packing orders. It takes me about 3 hours every other day to pack them.
Wow.
It takes a long time, because, you know, I'm printing all the labels off myself, I'm writing on them all myself, I'm picking out all the items, because I have over 700 items in my jewelry shop. So trying to find all of that and pick it out and set it out, and working on my bedroom floor doing all of this stuff.
Did you say 700 items?
Yes.
Wow. And that's grown in like 4 years. That's wow.
Massively.
That is amazing. Wow.
Massively.
700 is a lot. But it's amazing.
This was something I was doing alongside a 9-to-5 job. It wouldn't really matter, but, you know, because I'm putting all my time and effort into another creative business as well, I have to prioritize one or the other. Otherwise, one isn't going to be successful, and one is going to be successful or isn't.
Yeah.
So I definitely need to find that balance, and I'm hoping I'm getting there bit by bit. I'm trying to sort all my jewelry stuff out, get myself prepped for Christmas, because the Christmas prep starts now.
Yeah.
It starts in September always. Just getting everything ready and prepared, and it saves you so much time, because by the time I'm ready to launch for my lingerie stuff, hopefully I'll be at a stage where I'm just selling and I'm not having to make anything.
Yeah, kind of planning ahead and prepping.
Yeah, definitely. It's months ahead of preparation, but it's stuff that needs to be done in order to give yourself that bit of break as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, but good luck with that, and I'm excited to see kind of what it comes out. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your process and giving us good gems of experience and tips of how, even for myself, even though I've graduated now, how I can also continue to kind of push myself as well, and to be a go-getter like you, but also for those at college, at secondary school, thinking about design, the different ways in which you can kind of go about it. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was really good actually talking about all these things. It's weird to think that all these things have happened now that I say them out loud. Yeah, thank you.
So what can people look forward to? We know about your business. Is there Christmas sales or that people can look out to, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so every year I usually take part in a lot of Christmas fairs. I used to do quite a few at De Montfort University. I took part in a couple of Etsy ones when they did them in Leicester. I'm not sure what it's going to be like this year with the whole COVID situation, but I always have my website that's open constantly to make purchases, and that's just Roshni Desai Jewellery on Etsy. And then Christmas wise, I'm hoping to have all my lingerie design and outfits done by end of October.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to have launched by then, and at a point where I'm designing my next collection now, hoping that this actually goes really well and I have enough to then expand further. Yeah.
So definitely keep your eyes up peeled for the jewelry, but also lingerie for Christmas presents, and that definitely keep your eyes up for that. And just to end with, we're going to end with a game. So I'm going to give you two different options on the way you like to work, or the things you like to work with, and then just choose. So do you prefer to do draping or pattern cutting?
Pattern cutting.
Would you prefer to work with lace or silk?
Lace, definitely lace.
Even though it's so super tricky. Nice. When you're illustrating, would you prefer to illustrate with a pro marker or watercolors?
I prefer pro markers just because the colours are a lot bolder.
I agree. And the final one is, what brands or designers would you love to collaborate with?
I have always loved Ted Baker as a brand. I'm not quite big on print myself, but I think they work really well with what they do. And I think also incorporating it with lace to make their nightwear and lingerie look really sexy but still quite delicate. I just love it. I love the whole impact it has. So Ted Baker would definitely be one that I would love to collaborate with.
Nice. So one of these days.
So
yeah, that'd be exciting. Love to see that.